Cloudcast Media.
Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
I'm Drew Schlosberg, and we are so pleased to have, Emily, how long has it been since you were on my show?
It's been a while. It's been, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years.
Oh my goodness.
I just hope you still recognize me.
Of course I recognize you. Are you kidding me? Emily Moberly is the founder and CEO of Traveling Stories, joined by her colleague, Christelle Ballantyne. Christelle is the volunteer and outreach coordinator for this wonderful organization founded in 2010. Good to see both of you. And Emily, talk about the mission.
Well, it hasn't changed since 2010, but how we're delivering it has changed a little bit. At Traveling Stories, our focus has always been getting kids excited about reading. So our goal is to help them build confidence and strong reading skills before the 4th grade. If you've been following Traveling Stories for a while, you know we used to do that through in-person pop-up story tents. COVID changed that. So now we're doing a virtual story tent where we match kids one-on-one with trained reading mentors for weekly reading sessions online. And it's been super amazing to watch that grow.
So have you been able to increase the footprint of how many folks you've reached because of that?
Not yet. Well, in some ways, yes and no. Yeah. I mean, our physical programs, like we're reaching, nearly 2,000 kids a year.
Right.
But it wasn't, those 2,000 kids weren't coming every single week.
Right.
So now we've grown our virtual program from 50 kids in 2020 to nearly 300.
Nice.
And those kids are coming every week for at least 9 weeks.
Right, exactly. All online, correct?
It's all online. And they're still able to earn book bucks. They're still able to buy prizes. And eventually, as our capacity grows, we might be able to do more in-person activations, maybe like a quarterly pop-up where everyone can come out and see each other. We can read together, maybe pick out prizes. Right.
Exactly. And, you've been in this deal since, it started.
I'm a teenager now, 13 years.
I remember when you started it.
I know.
I do. It was very, very cool, concept. And then this little thing called COVID came on there. And Christelle, you've been at now this is your 5th year?
It is, yeah. I left for a little bit during COVID, but I'm back, and I'm excited to be with such an amazing organization, spreading literacy throughout San Diego and beyond now.
Yeah, and as Emily knows, I think you may know this too, Christelle. A billion years ago, before you folks were even born, I was honored to be president of the Greater San Diego Reading Association, and this was really dating myself here in 1990, and that aspect of it. So reading is the lifeblood of everything, and you can't talk about it enough. You can't promote it enough. And I know you work very closely with our good friend Jose Cruz, the CEO of the San Diego Council on Literacy. But I've always maintained this, and this is not to take away from any of those wonderful nonprofits that are involved in, what I call some of the, heart, felt diseases like juvenile diabetes or leukemia or whatever. Very important. We get that. But people don't look at literacy and reading in that same world. And I try to say, listen, you can't read, in the, any century for that matter, but especially in 2023, that is going to be a potential death knell for you. Talk about that, Emily.
Yeah, I mean, it's a critical issue, and I'm always surprised, I'm out meeting people and I'll mention, hey, do you know you must know what the literacy stats are, about how 82% of kids in low-income communities can't read proficiently by 4th grade. Almost every time they're like, what? No way. Like, I had no idea. And it is like, it's not just, Annie E. Casey Foundation says that for every kid who doesn't graduate from high school, society will have to pay approximately $260,000. And so, that's one way of looking at it. Like, if we can invest in children's literacy, if they can read by 4th grade, they're so much more likely to graduate, to be gainfully employed, to participate in their community in positive ways. And that's what I like to focus on, not just the savings of, how can we prevent this loss of resources and this cost to society, but imagine what we could see if we invest in these children. and I have kids of my own. And so seeing them and seeing how excited they are and how confident they are when they're able to read and understand what is before them, it really opens up so many opportunities.
Yeah, without question. And Christelle, as you know, one of the things we used to do, and certainly Emily remembers this, is that we used to do Union Tribune Dr. Seuss Race for Literacy, and we did that down 163 and raised money for the Council on Literacy, and we did pretty well on that. We used to raise over $100,000.
Yeah, really well, if I remember.
It did real well, obviously, and of course benefited the council and more opportunities for those literacy providers to provide tutoring services and all that. Aspect of it. But, we used to, chat about here's what happens when you're not reading, and most people that have been incarcerated have literacy issues. You guys know that better than anybody. But I used to do this exercise toward, when I started to, and I still am on the advisory board of the Council on Literacy, said, listen, I did this in one group. I said, close your eyes and imagine when you open them, you can't read. Mm-hmm. You can't read. What would that life be with you? And then they can't even imagine. Well, yeah, it's blank in that area. So, Christelle, talk about how important it is to get the message out, how critical reading is. That sounds so obvious because no one's going to say reading is not important, right?
Absolutely.
But when they make choices, you go, well, why aren't we sitting there putting every single cent into literacy and making sure every kid, newborn, has a book? Okay, that's a reason. And some hospitals do that, of course, and so forth. But talk about how critical just getting that message out is.
Getting the message out, and the critical thing of literacy in general. I mean, literacy teaches us that we can overcome the dragons in our life, even just that as adults and children. Some of those fairy tales that we're reading as children are the stories that we need as adults as well. So it's more than just, going into college and getting your career, but it's everyday life lessons. And that's the critical thing with literacy. If we can get the message of literacy across our nation even, people will learn that they can fight the dragons in their own life.
Well, and we have empirical data on this. We know when kids, read, and part of it is having access to reading. Listen, that's the very first start. Do you have any books at home? Do you have any books in the school and all that business? It's critical. I mean, use an example of the state of Mississippi and the Mississippi Miracle. Talk about it, Emily.
That story is so inspiring to me. And if you're not familiar, I recommend looking it up to get more details. But around 10 years ago, Mississippi was ranked number 49 in the nation, basically the lowest of children's literacy. 10 years later, now they're number 29. And so it's just so cool to look at that story. I mean, just 10 years going from 49 to 29, one of the things they instituted was some legislation that required that third graders pass a proficiency test before they can move on to fourth grade. And if a student didn't pass that test, they didn't just go back and repeat third grade as normal. They got a lot of extra support so that they would never have to repeat that again, and they would be prepared for fourth grade. And I think that shows that understanding that from birth to third grade, kids learn how to read, but from fourth grade on, they're reading to learn. From fourth grade on, teachers don't have time to teach kids how to read. They're expecting them to know how so that they can keep up and they can observe and absorb the materials that's coming. So, I think Mississippi shows us that's possible. I think a lot of times we're just like, this is too complicated. Where do we even start? Mississippi shows it's possible. They're making their resources available for free. And another thing they did is invest in a lot of professional development and really looking at the science of reading. How do our brains learn how to read? We actually know how we learn how to read. There's research from the last 50 years that makes it very clear what works and what doesn't work. And so are we doing that? Are we including that in our education? Are we preparing teachers with what we know works? And that's something Traveling Stories is doing. We're looking at if our session is 45 minutes long, how do we use this research to make sure that 45 minutes is as effective as possible? I think I'm better at reading than talking.
No, you do fine talking. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, Mississippi to me is just, because sometimes it's easy to get, see these stats and just hear these stories and feel forlorn. Yeah. So Mississippi to me is a bright spot that we should all be looking at and saying, how can we learn from this and what should we copy in our own community?
Well, when there's evidence like that, we're chatting with Emily Moberly. She's the founder and CEO of Traveling Stories, joined by her volunteer and outreach coordinator, Christelle Ballantyne. I'm Drew Schlosberg, and you're listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, just doing some wonderful things. Mission Fed is continuous for 60 years, bringing up great things, including literacy in our communities. But, it can be done. It just needs to be a big focus. And as you guys know, because you're in this field, that you have to talk about it 24/7, 365. You literally do. And so what if it sounds like a broken record? You have to do that, and especially when you see results in this. And we all know this, that if there's a reluctant reader that now gets turned on by reading, their whole world has just changed for the positive. And you've got hundreds of stories, in that area as well on this. I'm a little intrigued about this. I didn't realize you wrote a book, right?
Yeah.
So watch out for Mr. B.
Yes.
Talk about that. Who is Mr. B?
Mr. B is this principal who's super grumpy and kind of scary, and he hates reading for fun. And at his school, he doesn't let any of the children read books for fun. He only lets them read textbooks. And if he sees you reading something for fun, he takes it and throws it into this book graveyard. And so the students kind of band together and create this top secret book club. And they start sneaking out, and that club grows bigger and bigger until Mr. B realizes, what? Where are all the students? And then he tracks them down, and I won't give away the ending, but there's a happy ending.
And I like the fact that you get it's in Spanish and English as well.
Yeah, it's loosely based on my experience as a teacher in Honduras, and that's where the inspiration for Traveling Stories came.
Was there a Mr. B?
There was a Mr. A. Hopefully he's not listening.
No, he should be listening, and maybe he gets the picture on the. I just can't even imagine. I know I'm going to date myself here. When I was working for San Diego Unified a long time ago, at the time it was called USSR, Uninterrupted Silent Sustained Reading. And where you just, hey, we don't care what you read. Read a cereal box. I don't care. Mad Magazine. Just read,
Yeah.
And the folks who really get that, I learned how to read, and this has been something I think is well documented when I used to give talks on this through the sports section at the LA Times. Literally, that's it, and I became a sports writer. But that's how I read. I read all sports books and all that. And so I think as long as you're getting people into the habit of reading is real critical in this area. Talk about your new Pathways to College and Career internship. What's that all about? Which is near and dear to my heart, as you know.
I think, Christelle.
So we just started a brand new Pathways to College and Career. And as you know, there are 4 people that are working as paid staff with Traveling Stories. We do what we do with volunteers and interns. So we just started a Pathways to College and Career. And that's really a leadership program for high school students primarily, and a few college students. So they get to come into Traveling Stories, and they run the entire program when the children come in to read with their reading mentors. It's our Pathways to College and Career leadership program and interns that are creating this and making it happen and staying organized. So they get an opportunity to put this on their resumes, on their college applications, and learn leadership skills.
So how does it benefit teens?
How does it benefit teens?
Yeah.
They get to learn the leadership skills. They get to acquire the skills they need to be successful in college and career, and they get hands-on experience.
Right. So when do they get in? At what age are they doing this?
They can be 15. They can start at 15.
Okay,
so usually
15,
juniors.
okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Sometimes sophomores, juniors, and seniors in high school.
Right.
Getting those critical skills that you need in leadership on their resume and in their college pathway.
Right. So how do they participate? Is it on your website?
It will be. It's getting there. It's on our website. So if they email anyone on staff, Christelle at travelingstories.com, I can get them into the right place. So they come in, they fill out an application. They'll have an interview, just like anything else. They're going to gain interview skills. It's going to start from the very beginning. And then they'll get that hands-on leadership experience with the Pathways to College and Career opportunity.
I think one thing that's important to note too is that our staff mentors those participants.
Right.
So, they're getting feedback, they're getting coaching, they're getting mentorship. And I think all of that really helps them develop confidence as they go into a college interview or a job interview. It's exciting to see our high school students grow.
No, and that's really important to have in this day and age, because it's all about differentiating yourself in this day, where why do I stand out? Is it because I interviewed well? Is it because I had this unique experience doing X? Because I have, which all interviewers love, some metrics behind. Well, how do we know that was successful? Well, there's 8 people I worked with right now are all doing X, Y, and Z, which I think is spot on. When we come back from break, Emily and Christelle, let's talk a little bit more about what our listeners can do to support your efforts in this area, in terms of, do you need people to sponsor? Do you need people to buy books? Do you need people to do whatever the case may be on this? Again, we just really can't shout this out enough. Are there people that you're really looking for? Boy, we need a connection to X, Y, and Z in this, and we all do, and so forth. And then wanted to talk a little bit about, we brought this up in the previous interview. We had Dr. Gary Weitzman on, who's one of my favorite interviewees. Gary is the CEO of the Humane Society, and they are going through a major, major challenge on how many folks are not going to veterinary school. And they predict that by 2030, that the numbers 60% will be only the amount of veterinarians that we need to be successful in this, 60 short of a 40% of veterinarians. So same thing with educators. We know it's a tough putt in this area. How do we help support that effort? When maybe we can think about that when we come back from break with Emily Moberly. Emily is the founder and CEO of Traveling Stories, been there since the inception in 2010, joined by her colleague Christelle Ballantyne, volunteer and outreach coordinator. I'm Drew Schlosberg, as you're listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, continuing to ramp up cool things in San Diego for more than 60 years. We will be right back.
When you do your banking with Mission Fed, you get great rates on auto and home loans. That's good for you, but something good also happens for a lot of other people. We're not for profit, so we put money back into the community to help lots of great nonprofits to keep San Diego strong. So you're not just getting something good, you're doing something good. Come to Mission Fed. It's banking that's good for all.
Brand amplification is the DNA of Cloudcast Media, and our code is the powerful blending of sound, voice, and storytelling to lift local brands and their communities. Whether it is our Brandcast, Schoolcast, or Causecast platforms, the unifying ethos is all about this community, the one you call home. If you dare to dream and want to explore the brand amplification of Cloudcast, a national leader in local podcasting and other Winfluence strategies, please visit us at cloudcast.us.
I'm Drew Schlosberg, and you're listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union here in the Mission Fed studios in Scripps Ranch. Mission Fed been doing just terrific things for San Diegans for 60 years. We have with us in studio Emily Moberly, founder and CEO of Traveling Stories, joined by her colleague Christelle Ballantyne, the volunteer and outreach coordinator on this. So, talk a little bit about, there's challenges with education and teaching and all that business for different reasons in this, but are we looking at a looming teacher shortage?
Yeah, it sure seems like that.
Exactly. And obviously we need teachers, or we need tutors, or we need folks, especially when we're talking about the space you're on. How do we ramp that up?
Christelle, just kidding. I feel like that's a really important question that our community should address together.
Yeah.
And I'm not a teacher in San Diego.
Right.
So that's where I would go. I would go, and I think that we need to talk to teachers and ask them what their pain points are, how supported they feel, and what they need to feel more supported. I think they do so much.
They do.
And I don't know that they have enough support I don't know if I know the solution, but my first step would be to go and talk to more teachers.
Yeah, and you hear this thing all along. We work with, as you know, the Classroom of the Future Foundation with all 43 school districts and so forth. And there's many different reasons for some of this aspect of it. Part of it is been caused by the unbelievable shift in how we deal with things in this country, probably the world as well. Us versus them versus why aren't we, of all the professions you think we should be rowing in the same direction as our beloved teachers who for 182 days close that door and are really, helping us. The very first teacher, of course, is the parent and so forth. And then, of course, you hear some of the nonsense, and I will say this is not a political show, but I will say this, banning books. And you go, where? I mean, who put these folks back into the situation from those horrible times we were talking about? And I think that's what's so important about traveling stories is just to get the word out about, no, we got to do the exact opposite. We need to put these in front of people. Talk about that.
I mean, you never know what reading material is going to ignite that love for learning for a child.
That's
and
right.
So it is so important to increase access to books. And I think, one thing that Traveling Stories strives to do is to be a support to teachers. A lot of our teacher allies are able to use us as a resource. So when they have a parent-teacher conference and they have to mention to a parent, hey, your child's struggling with reading, here's what we're doing in class. Look at this resource. It's affordable. They have scholarships. It could even be free, and you can get one-on-one support personalized for your child's needs. And I think that's maybe what we need. I mean, I think we need to improve the situation for teachers and educators, but I do think that organizations like ours are sort of stepping in as an extra support. We're supporting families, we're supporting parents, and we're trying to increase capacity. A teacher probably can't provide the same personalized support that we can to an individual child. So let's work together. Let's not point fingers. Let's not shift blame. Let's just look at our kids winning. Are they succeeding? And if not, how can we work together more collaboratively to make that happen?
Right. So does some of this still come with, listen, I don't know a nonprofit on the face of the earth that's not saying, well, sure, I'd love to take some more resources.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. How important is that? Whether it's monetary resources, whether it's books, whether it's volunteering, talk about that.
The most critical thing we need right now is volunteers. Traveling Stories runs on the basis of volunteers. We have an exciting stat to talk about. This summer, we're expecting our biggest group ever. We're expecting 120 children to be going through our program, which means we need 120 reading mentors. We call our volunteers reading mentors because they really are mentoring these children for 1 hour a week of complete literacy time during that 1 hour. So we need 120 reading mentors. We're looking for more interns to be part of our program, students who want to learn those leadership skills we talked about earlier. And of course, we are a small but mighty nonprofit. We have 4 paid staff members and this huge program going on. So of course, we need sponsorships so that we can keep this going. Sponsorships are very important. So those who want to support education and literacy primarily and want to have their name put on the board, should I say, and be a sponsor, that is amazing. That will go a long way with getting literacy into the hands of these young children.
Right. Now, do you have different level of sponsorships, Christelle? Like, 5,000, 10,000, 15? You're not going to turn down 50, obviously. Are there different levels of it? How does that work?
We absolutely have different levels of sponsorships. I'm going to ask Emily. I'm going to turn this over to Emily for what the actual levels are.
Stuff. Yeah. Well, yeah, we do. We have different levels where, depending on what a partner is looking to achieve, if they want to have hands-on involvement in the program, that's a possibility. If they want to have exposure in the community, we have a Walk for Literacy event coming up October 7th. So that's a great way to get your name and your brand out there in the community in a really just meaningful and memorable way. We also have opportunities to share a sponsor's message every single week in our program. So in those Zoom sessions, we have opportunities to highlight the companies and the individuals who support our work.
Right.
And then for individuals, it's really easy to sponsor the program for a child. In our program, kids can pay from $0 to $55 for each 9-week program. That doesn't cover the full cost. My job is to raise the rest. That's our subsidized rate. Right. 40% of kids in our program are paying $0. So we really rely on sponsors and individuals to help us make that possible. It is so, so important that this support is available, affordable. Families shouldn't have to choose between food and the support they need to help their kid reach grade level competency.
It's all about access. There's no question about it. What's the website? How people get a hold of you?
Our website is travelingstories.org.
Right.
And you're welcome. It's easy to reach out to us on there. You can email us, follow us on Facebook, Instagram. We're pretty accessible.
Now, do you ever go to some of the bigger corporations, whether it's Semprest, AG&E, or Cox Communications that have, Qualcomm, that have a lot of employees, and say, hey, why don't you carve out some of your employees? Here's an opportunity for you to take this on as a company, volunteer aspect of it.
I feel like since COVID,
Yes.
everything shut down.
Yes.
We had to repivot, we had to pivot and create this brand new program.
Right.
I think we're honestly just getting to the point in the stability of our program where we can start doing that. And that's one really cool venture that Christelle's working on, because it would be awesome. I think we have so many amazing companies here in San Diego that don't just care about the bottom line. They do really care about the community and improving it. And from a selfish perspective, we need kids to be reading by 4th grade so that we have an amazing workforce to hire. So I'm hopeful, we're working on it. And if anyone listening wants to learn more, please reach out to us, visit travelingstories.org. Because we are looking to form those partnerships. And we're really interested. We can handle like one-offs, but we would love to build relationships with companies that are like-minded.
Yeah, right. Well, hopefully you're going to meet some of them at Qualcomm when you come to our Class of the Future Foundation's annual event next. A little plug for that, if I can, on May the 18th. Yeah, no, it's going to be a pretty nice gig at all. And I remember Qualcomm used to do a program called Qualcomm Cares. Maybe they still do it, where they literally had volunteer opportunities for whatever the case may be, and people come out in force. It probably wouldn't be a bad idea to check with some of the Qualcomm folks when you guys come out there on Thursday.
And on that note, just wanted to mention too, for anyone listening, our mentor volunteer role is a 9-week commitment, but we also have a need for substitutes. So if someone wants to get involved but maybe can't make the full 9-week commitment, still reach out to us, because we would love to put you on our substitute list.
Yeah, and we know how important that is, that one-on-one time where the kids can ask questions and all that business. The results are there, and the metrics behind how critical that is, and especially providing that support for that classroom teacher or whatever the case may be. I'll start with you on this, Christelle, and move it over to you, Emily. Christelle, any final comments?
Absolutely. We love being part of a community, and especially the literacy community at large, because as you know, you mentioned Jose Cruz a little bit earlier, literacy affects not only children, but also adults. And we love being part of the greater literacy community. And together, we are better. So anyone who wants to jump on board and be part of the literacy community and make a better life for children, that goes beyond just the childhood stage. It goes for generations. Check us out. travelingstories.org.
Yeah, listen, it's an equalizer. It is equity. It levels the playing field when you can now be literate and read. All obvious statements, but if sometimes it's the obvious that's in front of us that we don't get as much as we should. Emily, any final comments?
Just want to say thanks for having us. Thank you to Jose and Council on Literacy. They are co-presenting our Walk for Literacy event on October 7th.
Yeah.
And just thanks to everyone who has supported us. COVID was challenging, and I'm so proud that Traveling Stories is still here, that we're thriving and growing, and that would not be possible without the San Diego community. So if you haven't gotten involved yet, we have space for you. And if you've been supporting us all this time, thank you so, so much.
Why don't we do this? And I offer this quite a bit. I'm not sure if we've done it with you before. But somewhere down the road, without trying to break any, privacy laws, why don't you bring in a family, a child that has benefited from what you folks have done? Have him or her on, with the mom or whatever the case may be, and shine a light on it. Because to me, it's always important on our Spotlight show, talking about the great work of the organization. Now, here's the street cred behind it. Here are the people that have actually benefited from that service, whether it's literacy or it's, medical or whatever the case may be. So give some thought to that, all right?
Yeah, we'd love to.
That's a great idea. Thank you, Drew. Thank you for having us. This means a lot.
It's our honor to have you, and we'll have you on a lot more as well. We've been chatting with Christelle Ballantyne. She's the volunteer and outreach coordinator for Traveling Stories, joined by the founder and CEO, Emily Moberly. You've been listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, continuing to do terrific things for San Diegans in our county for more than 60 years. Hope you enjoyed the show.
You've been listening to an episode of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego community. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
Cloudcast Media.